I'm so glad that you guys asked me to speak here. Thank you very much. I am a pandomaniac too myself. I'm excited about being here and seeing all of you guys again. It's interesting. Financing, this might be one of those times where financing is a positive for renewable energy, because typically when you finance from 30,000 feet, typically when you finance um, a solar project, it is going to be for less than what you're paying in your utility bills. So, and it's fixed for whether it be a 12-year, 20-year program. It's a fixed rate. Your solar costs will continue to go up. They'll continue to rise. All of the utility companies have pushed for increases with the CPUC in 2021. And so to get a fixed rate without those incremental increases every year is kind of a plus, and it typically is less than what you're paying monthly anyway, your monthly rate. But I will say LADWP has some great programs too, by the way. And so the first thing I would suggest everybody do, because LADWP is probably farther ahead than a lot of the companies in offering great incentives, and is to get on their website and just start searching around. We're all familiar with how to search online now. So everybody get on the website, search around and see what kinds of incentives they're offering. There are incentives for no dollar down. There are incentives for shared services. There are incentives for batteries. There are incentives for not just solar, but putting in HVAC and all of that. But they also have, so those are some ways to get around on the financing. And then the other one is just the conventional way. If you're working with an installer, typically an installer has a finance company they work with, an energy finance company, not your Bank of America or Wells Fargo, any of those guys, but these are energy finance companies who are there to loan you money to put in solar and all kinds of renewable energy savings devices. And this is before you even get to the government incentives, investment tax credits and all of that. These companies like Energy Loan Network, they are much more pleasant to deal with too, in the sense of they don't have the bureaucracies that a lot of your other companies do. So working with Energy Loan Network, they pride themselves on getting you a response back in 24 hours or 48 hours. And, and all with the caveat, by the way, that your credit rating is very good. And that's the same way with LADWP and some of their incentives. You have to have a good credit rating to get really benefit from these offerings by these energy loan companies. Now, that's not to say if you do have some hiccups in your credit rating that you can't get a loan. It's just that it's going to cost you a little more. You may have to deal with another company. There are some out there that are easier to deal with than others when it comes to lower credit scores. But I think financing now, when I first got solar, it was Star Wars for a lot of these with banks and all that. It was kind of like cannabis. They weren't loaning money. They were you couldn't they weren't on you had to pay cash, or you had to lease, do a lease arrangement. And not everybody has the cash, and a lease, which was very popular years ago and it's still popular in the right situations now, it can also be a lien against your home. So if you sell your home, that lease is a lien against that home. So it has to be paid off, or the new owner has to assume the lease if that's possible. But now it's very popular. Solar is considered an appliance for a new home, and just like and a battery. And so banks and credit unions and also energy loan companies, there are a lot of them out there. That's not hard to get money for your solar project, and it's zero down. And by zero down, when they say zero down, remember, you're still paying for that zero down. It's just you're not having to put out any money up front. They're just putting the money in the back end, but still better than maybe having to put the money up front to begin with. So financing is great. And, solar has come down so much in the last 7 or 8 years. I mean, we're talking 70 and 80% down from what was offered years ago. And so financing makes all the sense in the world. And the other, now,
And
another.
can I stop you right there, Mark?
Absolutely, absolutely.
A quick clarification. So it sounds like from you, we have maybe 3 different options. If I was to move forward with solar in my home, I could finance, which is something that it sounds like you recommend.
Mhm.
I could pay outright in cash, for example, just pay for the whole system right there. Or I could lease, which sounds like that's more of an outdated model. Could you talk more specifically then about if you recommend financing or recommend paying in cash? Can you kind of tell us a little bit more how that would play out?
Well, it all depends on your situation. Financing, if you don't have the available capital, because you need to keep that banked or for whatever reason, for emergencies or college education, things like that. But financing, like anybody, financing, especially zero down, is a good option. And the solar installer has to show you, you make him or her show you that what my projected payment is going to be with financing versus what my projected payment would be if I was to pay utilities. So if I'm normally paying $300 a month in utilities, and my finance rate payment plus the $15 that I'm paying to LADWP every month is $160, then obviously I'm saving money, correct? And so that's, and if it was zero down, so that's, if you're inventory rich and cash poor, financing is always a great way to go. Paying cash, and it depends on what your mission is. Paying cash is a great way to go if you want to pay it down quickly and then be fully, your ROI, your return on your investment in 5 to 7 years, and then you're 100% in, and it's all coming back to you. So if you can pay cash, obviously pay it, because then your typical return on investment on solar for a residential is 5 to 7 or 5 to 8 years. Okay. In 5 to 8 years, all you're paying is whatever it is you owe for distribution by LADWP. And then leasing, but leasing's not a bad idea either. I mean, LADWP has a great lease program. Well, they will come out and it's no headache, it's no issues. Sure, it's a lien against your house and all that, but if that doesn't scare you, liens don't always scare me. Realtors, well, that's the first thing out of their mouth is, oh my gosh, don't do leases. It's a lien against your house for solar. They want you to get solar because it improves the value of the home. But so they like to tell new buyers, and it has solar. But, leasing in the right situation isn't a bad deal. Like, for instance, LADWP will install the panels if your credit rating, if your roof will support the panels, there's no shade issues, things like that, then they'll come in and put all that work in there, install everything, set it all up, and charge you $50, $60 a month, okay, for 20 years. That's the lease. Problems, you call them up, say, hey, we got a panel, it looks like it's issues, and they monitor too, or should monitor, and we'll know if all the panels are not working 100%. And so, it just depends on what you want to get out of it, what your particular situation is at that time.
Paying with cash, you own it immediately. In the financing or lease options, can you break down for us what those costs would look like and what sort of money would we be saving?
Well, leasing, you're saving, once again, if you're paying $200 a month and LADWP is leasing it to you for $50 a month, you're saving yourself $150 a month. And that 150 can go towards vacation savings, education, maybe a car payment, whatever. The financing is usually, the interest rates are anywhere from 2.9 to 6.9. just depends on the type of loan you get. There are so many different loan packages that you can get with these energy savings companies or energy loan companies. You just have to pick what's right for you. Some are 12-year loans. You want to pay it off as quickly as possible. The main thing is on that is there's no prepayment penalty on these loans. None of the energy loan companies that I'm familiar with charge you for prepayment. So that's the other thing. If you do financing and you do decide or all of a sudden come into some way to just go ahead and pay off the loan and realize 100% benefit from your solar, there's no penalty.
Similar to financing maybe a new car or financing to redo my kitchen.
It's exactly like financing a new car. In other words, when I say a lien against your house, if it's a lease, if you miss a payment on your car, they're not going to come and get your house. They're going to come and get your car.
Mm-hmm.
You miss a payment on the solar panels, they're going to come and get your solar panels. They're not going to kick you out of your house. The lease, is tied to your house. So if you sell your house, you have to pay off that. That's a lien again. They will not, escrow will hold your money and hold that sale until you have paid off or moved those panels or had someone take over the payments of those panels in that lease.
You've explained a little bit about then what we might need to watch out for if you're thinking about selling your home soon. Maybe leasing isn't a super great idea. Could you tell us what else we might need to watch out for?
Well, I mean, the other things you need to watch out for are garbage in, garbage out. I mean, now we're getting into installation, into do you have the proper foundation for these solar panels and all of that. So you just have to really look at your situation and think further out. Not just tomorrow or the next day. You need to think, okay, am I going to be in this house for 10 years? Am I going to need to replace the roof in 5 years? Am I going to, let me say this, the thing about leasing versus financing, you've got to expose yourself, right? You've really got to, leasing's pretty much no muss, no fuss. They'll come in, they'll run the LADIVP if they're who you're working through, or any of the other companies. They'll just say, okay, well, we see your credit rating and you should be able to make the payments. We're going to be out on Tuesday and we're going to install the panels and we'll get it all done and take care of the permitting. So, they make it easy for you, but they're making money off of you. First of all, here's the other reason why lease versus finance. With lease, you do not get any of the incentives. You do not get the investment tax credit. You do not get the rebates that you would get if you owned or if you were financing, because you don't own that. Your name is not on the ownership papers for that product. It is the company that's leasing it to you. They're the ones who are applying to the federal government for the investment tax credit. And that's where they make their money. Plus, LADWP off the lease makes the money in the aggregate. If they can get enough homes leasing, then they've got this resource where excess, they'll probably put up more panels than you need really for your house, because they will take that excess and they get to stay afloat because they get to sell that energy. Okay, that excess energy not being utilized in your home. And that's good because that allows them to invest in other things, it allows them to invest in solar farms and all of these things they need to do to stay on top of their game, to protect, to do more things about upgrading their equipment, power lines, so to protect homes in those fire zones, things like that. So leasing is great for companies, like a lot of companies. That's why they still offer it. You just have to decide if that's right for you. But do realize that you won't get all the benefits that come with owning your solar or financing your solar.
So should homeowners be concerned that if they were going with the leasing option, that maybe they were going to be charged a lot more for solar panels, far more than what they needed for their home?
No, because it's all in the writing there. I mean, all you're doing is agreeing to lease those panels. When you go out and buy a car and you're going to lease the car, first of all, you don't own the car, right? You're just leasing the car from Ford or whoever, and you're agreeing to pay X amount of dollars to lease that car, and they won't charge you anymore until you go past your 12,000 mile a month or a year limit or whatever. Whereas if you bought the car, that's your car. You own that car. If you at the end of 2 years want to sell it, you can go sell it, and you realize any benefit that you can realize from something like that. Same way with the panels. I mean, the lease, you just don't own it. That's all. So, but that might be fine with you. You may not be interested in the tax credits. You may not be interested in not worried about if I sell my home and it's a lien against my home, I'll just pay it off. All of that. I just want a fixed, low interest or utility rate that for the next 20 years. And whereas financing, once again, you've got to expose yourself. By the way, there's another option, and that is a home equity line. A home equity line is where you borrow against the equity that you have in your home. Okay. Now, the beauty about a home equity line, and you can talk to any broker about this, but the beauty about a home equity line is you get to write off the interest just like you would your house and any other property you have. Okay. So a lot of people, I mean, I don't see it a lot, but many people will use a home equity line to finance their solar. And that way they're paying against that home equity. And at the same time, they're writing off the interest. So there's a little bit of incentive there too.